I'm not a big fan of Beauty and the Beast, mostly because I don't think it's nearly as enjoyable without analyzing it. It seems to me that one of the unspoken rules to this amount of subtext should be that if you're not entertaining first, then the rest is irrelevant. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, it's just that other than the usual smattering of funny lines and one or two fun bits, the plot just isn't very interesting to me. Let me show you what I mean. Beauty and the Beast opens with a passage from Call of the Wild. Call of the Wild is about a dog named Buck who lives a life of comfort and is taken to the hellish wilds of Alaska and has to revert to a more primal side to survive. Significantly, of course, it's Buffy reading the passage. Important to bear in mind that episodes that may not appear to be about Buffy almost always in some way relate to her. Almost always. Willow's reading Oswulf, the Call of the Wild in the library cage when Xander takes over for her and promptly falls asleep. Things between Buffy and Faith are copacetic. Buffy says she and Scott Hope have been on a few dates, nothing to get excited about yet.
But you like him. When you think about him, you get that good down-low tickle, right?
I love Faith's sexual security, and it's a refreshing change of pace from the perspectives on sex the show has had so far. She tells Buffy,
every guy from Manimal down to Mr. I Love the English Patient has beast in him. And I don't care how sensitive they act. They're all still just in it for the chase.
As cynical as the just in it for the chase bit of her statement is, hers is still one of the important lines in the episode. As if to demonstrate, Willow in the following scene refutes only one part of the statement and not the other.
I don't think that's true. That every guy's in it only for the chase?
Scott introduces the gang to his friends Pete and Debbie. There's an interesting juxtaposition between how the three couples all stand. Pete has his arm around Debbie, implying possession. Oz and Willow are holding hands, implying equality. And Scott and Buffy haven't established that aspect of the relationship quite yet and simply stand next to each other. The gang discovers there's been a murder that could have been the work of a werewolf, and since Xander fell asleep, no one can be sure it wasn't Oz who did it, given his cage was open. Buffy goes to Snyder-mandated therapy, and her therapist is smoking indoors with the windows closed in a high school, which even in the late 90s seems a bit strange. Buffy explains that she has no desire to talk about her problems, fittingly, and that she's not looking for a new friend.
We're not gonna be friends.
And this is how we meet therapist Platt, who I really, really liked. My first time through the series, when Buffy walked into his office, I got really excited. As overused as the protagonist goes to therapy cliche is, it's one I've always kind of enjoyed. It could have been so fun for Buffy to have to go to counseling for a few episodes, always speaking to Mr. Platt about Slayer life through metaphor. For instance,
I mean, everyone has problems. Everybody has demons, right?
Gotta say I'm with you on that.
Phil Lewis's performance was so damn charming. Mr. Platt asks Buffy to describe why she ran away, and Buffy reluctantly lays it out. Angel, the fight with her mother, and her leaving. She asks what if she can't find herself again, and Mr. Platt says,
Love becomes your master, and you're just its dog.
In an otherwise very natural scene, the dog reference, while forced, reminds us of the title of the episode. To be a dog is to be a beast. Buffy joins the rest of the group and is filled in about the Oz situation. Giles suggests they have Faith watch Oz that night. Oz tries to storm away and Willow stops him.
Okay, you know that thing where you bail in the middle of an upsetting conversation? I have to do that. It's kind of dramatic, I know, but sometimes it's a necessary guy thing.
No one writes Oz as well as Marti Noxon. Willow reminds Oz of the time of day, and Oz locks himself up in the cage. When she points out the time, we can see Oz's frustration at how he has to make tough decisions to control his own inner beast. He then uncharacteristically tells Willow to get away from him. That night, Buffy is patrolling the forest when she runs into a feral Angel with bloodied lip. Angel attacks her like a rabid animal, and Buffy knocks him senseless. She takes him back to the mansion and chains him up, discovering the portal on the ground. Willow, Xander, and Cordeila investigate the mutilated corpse from the previous day, and Willow, on a quest to acquit Oz, is the only one not affected. Until she's done, of course. The next day, Buffy asks Giles what would happen to someone who spent hundreds of years in the Hell Dimension being tortured.
It would take someone of extraordinary will and character to survive that and retain any semblance of self. Most likely he'd be a monster. From my experience, there are two types of monster. The first can be redeemed, or more importantly, wants to be redeemed. The second is void of humanity, cannot respond to reason or love.
At lunch with Scott, Pete, and Debbie, Buffy says she's kind of enjoying talking to Mr. Platt so far. Debbie says she hasn't enjoyed the things he says or the questions he's asked, and Pete takes notice. Scott tries to pay Buffy a compliment, and you can see she's clearly distracted with disturbing thoughts about something else. Buffy discovers Mr. Platt has been gutted during the day, poor bastard, which eliminates Angel given he was locked up, and Oz given the lack of moonage. Turns out Pete was making his own brand of Monster Energy drink and became more monster than man. Here we have the literal manifestation of Mr. Platt's statement about master and dog in Pete and Debbie. And in this scene, Debbie ends up comforting Pete after he hit her. Oz finds Debbie and tries to support her. Pete sees and attacks him. Angel breaks free in the mansion. Sun sets and Oz gets a pretty awesome moment.
Time's up. Rules change.
Buffy tries to knock out Pete with a dart, but Debbie foils her and she shoots Giles instead.
All right, bloody priceless. Bloody priceless.
Faith tranks Oz, Pete kills Debbie, Angel kills Pete, apparently retaining some vestige of his former self, and we end with another Call of the Wild quote. I like the structure even if I don't particularly enjoy the execution. There are 3 important statements that frame the episode. The first is Faith's.
All men are beasts, Buffy.
I don't think the show is actually saying anything about the male gender. There are genders of all kinds throughout the series with monsters in them. In nearly every wolf episode, the wolf itself is a symbol for our inner id or shadow self, the primal animal urges we all have that we must control and be responsible for in civilized life. Fitting then that Oz, the most subdued, mellow member of the Scooby Gang, is the one infected by the beast. In the case of this episode, there are 3 beastly shadow selves in question. The one that has been mastered, that's Oz. The one that has taken over, that's Pete. And then Angel's, the one we're unsure of. So what distinguishes the 3? Well, that brings us to the second important statement in the episode.
From my experience, there are 2 types of monster. The first can be redeemed, or more importantly, wants to be redeemed. Second is void of humanity, cannot respond to reason or love.
The third important statement is Mr. Platt's, and it applies to Buffy and Debbie, in regards to what happens when you stay lost in love.
Love becomes your master, and you're just its dog.
Debbie has ample opportunity to act out of integrity throughout the episode, but staunchly protects Pete to her very end. Whether Buffy is still lost in love remains an open-ended question when the episode finishes. As I said, it's all fine. The episode gets a solid meh for me. The main issue is so much of the intense drama in the episode centers around Pete and Debbie, who were just introduced this episode. Their intense, destructive relationship is dialed up so high, and Pete's words are so cliched,
"You're nothing but a waste of space,"
that they feel more like caricatures of abuse to me rather than real people. I just wish there was more subtlety there. Of course, it's possible that if I'd ever personally experienced something like this, I'd find those scenes more compelling. Still, it's an important episode, if not a great one, providing a thoughtful blueprint for some things that are going to become very important as the season goes on.
He was my first. I loved him. And then he.
Changed.
Yeah.
He got mean,
Yes.
and you didn't stop loving him.